Hello and welcome to Pro Tools eBook 110 Exercise 7. So close, 3/4 of the way through this book and most of the way through the class. Can you believe it? Wow. One thing I'll say right off the bat, exercises 7, 8, 9, and 10 are a little bit longer than the rest as far as the time it's going to take to get through them. I've been trying to keep these videos between 20 and 30 minutes each, but from here on out they'll probably be a little longer, so keep that in mind. All right, let's get started. Exercise 7, let's see. Working with clip loops and editing on the grid. Super huge, super awesome, because this is something you'll, editing with the grid is a very powerful and quick way to do things when specific placement is key. And clip loops are great for many reasons, but one of the primary reasons is extending room tone. Sometimes you're given maybe 20 or 30 seconds of room tone. You've got a 2-minute scene. With clip loops, you can make that happen. So let's get started. So to get started, we will open the session you created in exercise 4. What I would suggest here is it's easiest to just do their alternate, and that is if exercise 4 session is not available, just open up waiting here. I have it in the old 110 exercise media folder. Waiting here, I believe is what they said. Yep, waiting here. Open it up. I'm just going to call this, let's see what they say they call it. Name of the 110 exercise 7 our initials and make it stereo mix. Yep, this is pretty much what we do every time. So 110 exercise 7 KT stereo mix. There we go. And I'm going to put it in that same folder because to me that just makes most sense. Keep it all together. Okay, and then I guess we'll go to Zoom preset 2 according to this. All right, here we go. So you might remember here is where our Zoom presets are. Very powerful way. If there's a certain area that you always go back to, you can zoom in on it, save it as a preset, and then later on when you they call it a Zoom memory. Zoom preset, Zoom memory, same thing. And you can always go back to it. So, boom. Number 2. So that is this area that I guess we're going to be working with. Okay, that's cool. Oop. Okay, so creating a clip loop. We did the Zoom preset 2. Locate the snare dub track in your session and select snare 3 clip on the track. Solo it and press the space bar to audition it. Okay, great. So we want snare 3 clip and it's the snare dub track. Boom. And then let's solo it. And we want to just hear this one, so we'll use the grabber tool to select the whole clip just by clicking on it, and now hit the space bar to audition it. See, it's already a loop. I have it on loop playback. So as I'm auditioning it, it's pretty cool when you audition something is to have loop playback on, because then you're auditioning the loop, right? So I can see that this is something that is going to loop nicely, because as I'm playing it back via loop playback, it's a seamless loop. Okay, sounds good to me. Let's see what they have us do next. Okay, so in the clip looping, okay, with the clip selected, choose clip loop to open up the dialog box. And then, this is a music project. We're working in bars and beats. So if you don't know how bars and beats work, just follow these directions to the letter and you will achieve the outcome. Bars and beats are just another way of measuring time, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, beat, 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 bar, beat, 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 bar, beat, 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 bar. 4 beats in a bar in this case. That's the way to measure time in a music session. So let's see here. We want to make our loop length 8 bars and click OK to create the clip loop. Okay, so here we go. So there's 2 ways to do this. We have the clip highlighted. We can go up to clip, down to loop. Actually, there's 3 ways to do this. Clip, loop, and as you can see, there's actually a shortcut for this. On the Mac, it's Option Command L. I'm trying to remember my Windows commands. I think the equivalent on Windows would be Alt Control L. There you go. So you can go up to clip, do the shortcut, or what I like to do, right click on the clip itself. In here, you will find a lot of things that you can do up here in the submenus, but it's easier because you can just do a right click. Loop all the way down to the bottom. Boom. Loop length. They want it 8 bars. So literally just, it's right now mine says 16. I highlight it. I just type 8. Then you hit OK. As you can see, there are other things. Number of loops. I could say I want 500 loops if I want. I could say 5,002. I could say I want 2 loops. I could say loop until end of the session. So if this is a session that's basically like, say, 1 scene, maybe this is like a 5-minute scene, and this is room tone, I could just click on loop until end of session. So it's a really powerful way to just have this extend for the whole session and just be done with it. And then there's this other thing called enable crossfade. They're not having us do this now, and for music-based stuff, you might, depends on what you're looping, but you might not want to do this. But for room tone, you most likely do want to enable crossfade, because what that would do is every time it loops, obviously it's like a file next to a file next to a file, a clip next to a clip next to a clip. You want the clips to crossfade in and out of each other to create a more seamless transition. Because if a clip plays and then it's just butted up and it gets another clip, you could hear that cut. You could hear one clip start, or one stop and one start. It depends on the clip, obviously. But if you crossfade them, they kind of blend together, so the transition between the first clip and the next clip is kind of murky. So basically the viewer doesn't hear it. That's what a crossfade does. It blends one clip into another clip. This one, they don't want us to do that. But I'm showing you this because when you're doing things like room tone, you want each clip to blend into the next to disguise the fact that you're looping. So you should definitely be aware of the crossfade. And here you could choose what type of fade it is. And if you want a refresher on this, go back to the last chapter. I believe it's chapter 6. And there's a whole thing about fades in there and what equal power is versus equal gain. And length, 10 milliseconds, to me, that's nothing. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So with me, I would do that. However, like I said, for this one, we're not doing that. But just know that if you are looping things like room tone or something where you want the loops to blend together, enable crossfade is key to make that happen. Okay, so loop length. Let's go back to that. I know I do these little tangents, but it's important because we're an audio post. This is a music project, but I'm trying to show you the relation of the two. Loop length, 8 bars. So loop length, 8 bars. Okay. Boom. Look at that. So it just extended the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see it when you zoom in a little more. There's actually these little loop arrows here. When you put your grabber tool over it, you'll see a little whoop arrow. That lets me know that I can actually modify these loops if I want. But when it's looped, it sees it as one clip. And let's go ahead and play it, see what it sounds like. Sounds pretty awesome. And I showed you guys this thing in class too. This is a potentially dangerous tool, but it's another way to make stuff loop. If you go up to your trim tool and hold down your left mouse button, you'll see you have all these alternate types of trim tools. One of them is trim loop. If you click on that, then your trim tool becomes a trim loop tool, and it takes the existing clip and loops it for as long as you do the trim. See? I am literally just extending the loop, and I know that because I've got my little loop arrows there. So if you really want to play around with looping, use the trim loop tool. That's yet another shortcut to make stuff loop. And you access that just by going up to the trim tool and holding down the left click button on your mouse. Put it back on standard for now, though. Okay, so now it says to reuse the clip loop. In this part of the exercise, you will copy the clip loop and reuse it for the other two choruses. Interesting. So copy and paste the clip loop at chorus 2. Click on Zoom preset 1. With the clip loop still selected, edit copy. Oh, we're just going to do like a copy paste thing. Great. And then click on the grid value pop-up selector and set the grid to 1 bar. Okay, let's see how that works. First, let's make sure we're in grid mode. If you're in slip mode, shuffle, or spot, you want to go into grid. And you don't want relative grid, you want absolute grid. I believe we talk about the difference between those two grid modes in the next chapter. Anyway, so Zoom preset 1, click on 1 right here. Now we're zoomed out. You can also just zoom out with this guy or this guy. Boom, boom. There's always ways to zoom in and out. But we want Zoom preset 1. There it is. Then while this is still selected, which it is, we want to copy it. And then click on the grid thing and the grid pop-up selector in the edit window toolbar and set it to 1 bar. Using the selector tool, click at bar 29 on the same track and paste it. Got it. Okay. So here is the grid. Our time base is bars and beats. Our grid is turned on. It's off, it's on, it's off, it's on. You can see the lines appearing and disappearing. And then when we click on the little pop-up right there, this is where we say we want it to be in bars and beats. And we say, what do we want our grid lines to be? We want a grid line every eighth note, quarter note, half note, or bar. We want a bar. So as you can see, they're nice and spread out now. So that makes it easier to find specific points, in this case at least. So go up to the selector tool. Now we can select anywhere in the timeline that is a grid point because we are in grid mode. And it says to go to bar 29. These are our numbers right here. Here's 29 right there. Then there's even a little marker that says chorus 2. So click on that. We know we're there because the blue cursor arrow and this right here says 29. So this lets us know we're in the right spot. And now we paste. So one more time. Copy. Selector tool, bar 29. Make sure that snare dub track is selected because the paste needs to know where it's going to go, and then hit paste. Boom. There it is. And then I think then we want to do it again. Paste another copy at chorus 3 at bar 49. Great. Here's bar 49 right here. Make sure snare dub track is still selected. It is. Paste again. Boom. We have just taken our loop, copied, and pasted it in 2 other spots. Okay. I love these discussion points. What is the effect of pressing the right arrow key? Oh, wow. What would happen if your selection included multiple clips and you pressed the right arrow key? What do you expect would happen if you pressed the left arrow key? Okay, well, your answer's right above here. With the clip loop still selected, press the right arrow key on your computer to scroll the end of the clip loop to the center of your screen. Okay, so let's see what these left and right arrow keys do. Go back to Zoom preset number 2. As you can see, we've got snare 3, and it's selected. Press the right arrow to scroll the end of the clip loop to the center of your screen. Okay, see what happens. I hit the right arrow key. See that? Left arrow key. So what that does is, when you have a clip selected, right here, the center of the screen shows me the beginning of the clip. When I hit the right arrow, the center of the screen shows me the end of the clip. So that's where so if you need to see the beginning or an end of a clip because you don't know how long it is, maybe something happens at the end that you want to fix, instead of scrolling through your timeline looking for it, all you have to do is select the clip and hit the left or right arrow key, and the left arrow key takes you to the beginning of the clip, the right arrow key takes you to the end of the clip. And that only works on the clip that you've selected. So, another useful shortcut there. They like to do this in these workbooks, like intersperse, like, ooh, try this, try that. Okay, modifying the clip loop. This is huge, especially with you folks doing room tone. Because the third chorus in this song repeats, the clip loop is not long enough for the entire chorus. In this section of the exercise, you'll use the trim tool to extend the clip loop. Then you will modify the last 4 bars to change the rhythm at the end of the song. Lastly, you'll separate the final bar. Wow, they're really, see what I mean? These exercises get more in depth for these last 4 chapters. So let's just go through step by step. Extend the loop with the trim tool. Select the trim tool and place it near the end of the last snare. The trim tool will display the loop trim icon with a loop arrow. Click inside the clip and drag to the right to extend the clip loop to bar 65. And watch for the clip iterations, which are these little arrows. Watch how they're added as I extend it. Okay, so, what is it? Bar 65. Okay, so let's just go. Okay, here's the end of this last snare clip loop. Looks like it ends around bar 57, and we want it to extend it to 65. So it's just telling us to use the regular trim. That's fine. Because what happens is, when you have a clip that's already been looped, in this case, this one is looped. So by going into trim loop mode, it's kind of redundant because just the regular trim tool, as you'll see, will make it loop. I'll show you what I mean. Regular trim tool. Here it is right there. I have to actually go just inside the border of the clip, and then it turns. See the arrow that comes in there? That lets me know that I can now extend the loop. So click, hold, and drag. And as I'm dragging it, you can see the little loop. They call it the loop iterations. It's basically the little arrow icon that lets you know that, yes, you are extending the loop. So we want to go to 65. Boom. We just did it. And if we play it, Go to the end here. See? And then it'll stop. Pow, pow, pow. Sounds like the end of a song to me. Okay. Okay, modify the last 4 bars. Using the selector tool, click inside the loop at bar 61. Separate clip at selection or press Command E. Ooh, this is exciting. Bar 61. So here's bar 61 right there. So I could go up to Edit, separate clip at selection, and use the shortcut Command E or Control E on Windows, or even better, on both platforms. Wherever your cursor is located, if you just hit the B key on your keyboard, it separates it. And how do I know? Because, let's undo that. I'm going to hit the B key, which is a shortcut for separate clip at selection. See that? One more time. See that? You could see that because it shows every clip on your timeline always has the clip title in the upper left corner of the clip. So, see? This is now its own clip. And it also made a new clip in the clip window. Every time you separate a clip, it makes a new, basically, for those of you who know Premiere, subclip. So if I do this again, Selector Tool, B to separate, watch the clip window right here. Boom, another one just popped up to show me that, yes, I have made another one. But we don't want to do that. We just want to do this one at bar 61. Okay, click on the grid value pop-up selector and set the grid to half note. Ooh, exciting. Okay, here's the grid pop-up selector. Half note. Watch the grid lines basically double. Now we've got twice as many. Click, let's see here. Reselect the trim tool and position it over the looping arrow along the bottom of the clip at bar 65. Click inside the clip and drag to the left to shorten the loop iteration. Okay. Trim the loop iteration to a single half note in duration. Okay, so reselect the trim tool, position it over the looping arrow at the bottom right corner of bar 65. Got it. Here's bar 65 right here. So you'll notice when I'm in trim mode, if I'm like sort of around the middle of the clip and I go just inside, it becomes trim loop. But then when I do that, obviously I can extend it, I can shorten it. It basically just extends the loop. But when I take the trim tool and put it over the trim iteration, it becomes a regular trim tool. Trim loop, regular trim. Trim loop, regular trim. So even though I've got regular trim selected, I can, because this is already a looped clip, it's already looped, it by default, my trim tool by default will become a trim loop tool. But then when I go over the actual loop icon, or the loop iteration as they call it, then it becomes a regular trim tool again. It's kind of like it's canceling it out. So once I do that, what does it want me to do? Drag to the left to shorten the loop iteration. Trim the loop to a single half note. Okay, watch what happens. So right now it's like every, let's see, looks like it's, this is a bar, that's a bar, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Go. Drag to the left. See that? Okay, this is where it becomes sort of a thing where it kind of helps to have a musical knowledge to understand what we're doing. Each one of these grid lines is now, because we changed it up here, is now a half note or half a bar, right? A bar is made up of 4 beats or 4 notes. So we're doing like every half note, right? So it's basically half a bar. So this line is let's see, bar, half bar, bar. So it's like 1 bar, 1.5, 2 bars, 2.5, 3 bars, 3.5, 4. So what we want to do is, for this last bit, we want it to, looks like they want us to kind of have the loop shorten. So instead of a loop every bar, we want to loop every half bar or half note. So trim tool goes over the loop iteration. We let the looping know that we want to shorten the loop itself. So we drag to the left, and you see how the loop iterations become a little more frequent. And then 1 more, boom. And now when I let go, there's loop iteration there, there, and because we know the grid lines are every half note or half bar, see how the loop iteration is at every half note or half bar? That we have just basically shortened the frequency of the loop. So let's go back here. We'll start here, and as it plays through this bit, listen to the snare and how it loops. Then when we shorten the loop iterations, when it reaches this point, listen how it changes. Okay, the loop's going to change now. See how that worked? So this is something, again, that's more music-based. When you're dealing with room tone or looping sort of abstract sounds like room tone or background sounds like wind or whatnot, which is where you would use this primarily, you're not really looking to like change your loop iterations too much. You just want to mostly extend it and make it seem as seamless as possible. But there might be times where if you are looping something in the background, like maybe say typing sounds, like like X-Files or a show like that, when they're at FBI headquarters, there's always the sound of somebody typing in the background, like busy. Oh, there's some crazy office work going on. You might want to play with those loop iterations to make the typing faster or make them kind of like sporadic here and there. This is how you do it. Okay, now we're going to edit individual eighth notes. Interesting. So using the selector tool, select just the last bar, 64 to 65. Click on the grid value and set the grid to 1/8 note. Wow. Okay, we'll do it. Okay, 64, here's 64 to 65, right there. Grid, 8th note. See, now we have even more grid points, right? So bar 64 to 65, edit, separate clip on grid. Pre-separate amount. Enter a small pre-separation value, 2 to 5 milliseconds, to allow for some padding, and click OK. The selected audio will be separated into 8th note clips. Okay, so let's just do 2 milliseconds. Watch what happens. I now have tiny little 8th note separate, because I chose edit, separate clip on grid. These are my grid points. I've now separated on the grid, and I've separated them with, I'm zooming way in, basically 2 millisecond pads. We're going to come up to that in just a second. Okay, there we go. Choose zoom preset 3. Double click to zoom in. Okay, there we go. Nice. Double click with the selector on the third 8th note clip to just select that clip. Edit, duplicate to duplicate the clip, placing the duplicate 1/8 note later. So this, okay, as you can see by the waveforms, there's this one, then there's this one, and then there's this one. You can see, if you look closely, I'll make it a little bigger. It's a little bit louder. So it's like do, 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 do. So it's probably that do thing. So they want us to duplicate that. So you select it, edit, duplicate. You'd probably right click on that too. Actually, no. Right click won't do it. You will actually do have to go up to edit for this one. Edit, duplicate. Watch what happens. It duplicates it at the next grid point. That's what duplicate does. It's kind of like a quick copy and paste. Like if you know you want this to be copied and pasted here, rather than copy, paste, you could just select it, duplicate, and it just, you know, it combines 2 steps into one. That's what a duplicate is. Oops. Okay. Duplicate the final snare hit. Okay, click on the grid value and make it 1/16th note and go to bar 64. Wow, see, we're getting really detailed here. Okay, so we've duplicated this onto this. Now they want us to go to grid and basically make the grid lines even more detailed, 1/16th of a note. See, now look how we started at 1 bar and now we're basically down to like into much finer detail because we want to modify the snare track of this. And actually this happens in recording studios a lot. A drummer will do something and they're like, oh, if only he did that a little bit more. Well, when you separate it into the grid, you can actually find specific hits, copy and paste, or duplicate them to areas in your mix where you want them. That's basically what we're doing here. We're remixing a track, literally, piece by piece. Okay, so on the track from 64.4 to 64.240. So let's see here. So we'll look at this, 64.4. So you can actually just go there by typing it in. And then, so we're at 64. So and the instructions want us to go from 64.4.000 to 64.4.240. How do we know how to do that? Our start and our endpoints. So if our cursor is somewhere else, we could just type, well, I know I want to go to 64.4.000, return, and watch this move. Now our cursor is where we want it to be, and even says 64.4.000, and we want to end at 64.240. Well, we could take this and drag it, and as you can see, our selection starts where we want it to, and it ends where we want it. Another way to do that is click, if we know what we want it to be, if we know we want it to end at 64.4.240, we can actually select the value we want to change, type in what we want, hit return, and watch. It selects it for us. Pretty cool. Duplicate the selection 3 times to create a snare fill at the end. Okay, so we've selected this, edit, duplicate. Well, that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. So we literally just copied it and pasted it 3 times. But instead of going through copy, paste, we just went duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Oops. Okay. Zoom preset 2 to zoom out. Then scroll as needed to play back cursor at bar 57. Okay. So we want to hear our... So I hit zoom preset 2 to zoom out a little bit. So now we're going to listen to it from bar 57 onwards. And you can see what's going to happen from here on. There you go. I mean, we literally just manually reconstructed a song. This happens all the time in recording studios. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. To finish, you can listen to the results. Be sure to save the work you've done, blah, 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 blah. Unsolo the snare drum track and listen to it with the completed changes. Okay, let's just listen to that last bit here. So I unsoloed it. So now I can hear everything. Let's hear how this sounds. We're going to start at bar 58.
I don't know what to do. Taking up all my time. You got me waiting here for you. Baby, you're on my mind. And I don't know what to do. Wasting all my life. You got me waiting here for you.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, so I can see what you did. I want you to take a picture of this, but take a picture of this with it zoomed in at the end. So I could see basically from bar, I just want to see that, I want to see these iterations here. So I want to see, let's see here, from bar 59 onwards. So zoom in to the point where bar 59 is at the left edge of your edit window, because that will allow me to see your edit points and see that you did this correctly. Do that, take a picture, send it to me. Woo! Exercise 7 is done. Yep, that was a long one.